Hello and welcome to Flaggerdoot Chasing. I'm Scott and this is Chris. Hey, Chris.
Hey Scott, good day to you.
Good day. So today we're going to talk about why do I have to wait for a deck and a meeting to see the status of my work, if
Or
it's
what?
on time, and if I have any risks. Or better said, Chris.
Why do I have to ask for the information I need?
Yep, one of our very favorite quotes. That first one from a situation that both Chris and I had, and unfortunately, reporting like this off of a deck in a meeting is pretty typical. We call it just reporting by PowerPoint. And so what goes into that is many hours of collecting data and then setting up a meeting and then having a super expensive meeting. And I think you had some stats on meetings, Chris.
Yeah, yeah, I found this article a little while ago that talked about Spotify that quantified the cost of three people attending a 30-minute meeting. And these were not executive level attendees. And it was between $700 and $1,600 for 30 minutes. So that's a massive amount of cost that they're incurring in the
Yeah, imagine
business.
now 50 people and a bunch of executives in the meetings that we attended, and the cost just skyrockets.
Well, and I had this thought earlier. What if you had to pay $1,600 tuition to attend a 30-minute meeting? Would you get approval for that? Probably not, right?
No kidding.
So,
And what's worse is it's interpreted data. It's not data directly from a system that's just data. It's interpreted data, and that's exactly the way we talked about in the last video, which is those watermelon projects. You know, green on the outside, green, 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 until the very end, red on the inside.
and as you say, it's interpretive. It's extremely subjective, and oftentimes it's sometimes a version of the age-old kids game, the telephone game, where I've talked to three people and they talked to three people and I got their source of information. So it's been washed through a whole bunch of individuals that are applying a particular slant to the context of the information versus what we like to do, which is go straight to the heart of the matter, which is creating a data-driven format that allows you to eliminate all that time that you invest in securing what is basically opinion
Yeah,
and
what's
go to
funny is,
facts.
we both experienced this is, decks were prepared, with a ton of man hours, and you have this big monthly meeting that's super expensive and you report, and that's interpreted data. And I think the reason why the executive level likes it is because it's done in a pretty format and in graphics, and they can take those and they can forward it up. And you're right, each successive level that it goes up, it gets whitewashed a little bit until what gets reported to the top is nothing like what was stated in the original meeting.
It bears little resemblance to the reality on the ground, and,
Yeah.
and that's a real issue.
Yeah. So what Chris and I did, and we're going to give you a situation. What we did and what we focused on was visualizing the work, getting the work so that it's easy for everyone to see. And to do this, we needed to capture the end-to-end work necessary to generate the value. And you'll hear that a lot in our videos, the end-to-end flow of work. And so to do that, we defined that this is within a team or a group of teams. We define the types of work that are being completed. Then we value stream map each of those work types. Then we define what are going to be the chunks of work that are going to move across that process. And then we just convert that information to a board.
Mhm. And when we say we in that, and Chris, it's the subject matter experts in the
Yeah.
business that are providing their insights about the reality of what's on the ground on how that process needs to execute to get to completion.
Yep. And the interesting thing here is, and we'll talk about this in benefits, is you're really starting with a subset of the overall process. You can do that with a couple teams or a team or so with a small core subset, and then you can continually add in supplementary pieces to that end-to-end flow as you move forward. Um, and I think what happens is, when Chris and I were doing this, or have been doing this together, if initially you're selling the idea. Here's where we're going, here's what we're doing, we're going to visualize this end to end. Okay, yeah, we'd like to try that. And after a while, quickly what happens is everybody wants to be part of that ecosystem that you're creating.
Yeah, because they can start to see themselves in what we're doing.
Yeah, the
Um,
context of what they're doing.
they understand the context, and we've been part of some of these transformations that are appropriately named Big Bang. It's named Big Bang for a reason because it generally blows up at some point. Um, we like to land in one place. We like to create that safe environment that says we're just documenting and graphically representing the items that need to take place for that work to progress through that particular portion of the ecosystem.
And here's what the result was, or what that did for the organizations that Chris and I have done this in, is one, they've got an on-demand access to, or 24/7 access to work status. They know where work is in the process of being completed. They can see the work priority, what's still in a backlog, what's in process, what needs to be completed now. They can see the risks present. They can see the blockers, key dependencies, bottlenecks, which are really important to identify in that end-to-end process. They can tell if the work's on time or not. And it establishes an execution consistency that is not typically there. And Chris alluded to that earlier.
And
Uh,
not only is that consistency of execution, we've also instrumented that as
yep.
the work flows through what the teams have built, we're capturing analytical data by which you can go and examine how efficient, how effective, where all those blockers are, as Scott mentioned, and it becomes second nature. We've reduced significantly the amount of effort that would normally go into the collection of a subjective deck for an executive or a leader and put that all into a particular board or information source that people can readily understand where they are, how close they are to being done, and what more they need to take and what's inhibiting them from getting to done.
Yeah, and that bias that we talk about has been removed, which is really nice.
Exactly.
So, so some observations, or a couple observations. What this creates is an unprecedented amount of visibility, and even scarier for some, but for good companies, not so much, a transparency of work that is really freeing, and you can make decisions with logical data points rather than that emotional or the interpreted data of a deck.
Right. And I think you just touched on a really important item, Scott, where we often say we're visualizing the process. The other side of that discussion is you've there's no place to hide. And so that if you've got some deep dark issues, it'll surface those issues. And sometimes people are challenged about how that's going to be received, but they're going to be surfaced at a point in the future, regardless. So you might as well handle it in a managed, intuitive, and thoughtful manner as opposed to
Yeah,
firefighting.
that's it. That's another good point, Chris. You bring up another one, is also what we're doing is, oftentimes people are worried about collaboration with other teams, and there's good collaboration and bad collaboration. Bad collaboration takes away from your time that should be spent on good collaboration. And this really drives that good kind of collaboration that adds to that end-to-end process. And that's really important, and a big benefit from visualizing your work and
Mhm.
creating that transparency.
Yep, very much so.
Well, if you've found this video helpful and would like to talk specifically about issues that you're having, or you just want to learn more, please feel free to schedule a 30-minute guidance session with us, and we'll go ahead and put the link in the the video description, or excuse me, the description of the video on YouTube. Until then, Take care.
Have a good one. Take care.